Hi, I'm here with Joey Taylor. Many of you will remember Joey from our annual general meeting, and we're here at the YMCA Canada current board table, but we're very excited about the table project that was announced at the annual general meeting. And the idea of all of you, all the Ys across the country, looking for that story that you want to tell, that piece of the table that you would like to have, is just very exciting to us. Just a reminder, as many stories as you want to tell. If you have stories for your Y, if you have a story for each of your branches, if you want to get your community involved, any of that is just fine. We're just looking for you to find those stories that you want to tell through this great idea of a table project. If you remember, we announced the table project at the annual general meeting. Through the summer, you're going to be looking for these stories and finding the stories, and then the item that is going to represent that story for you. You're going to get those items to us in the fall, and then by December we're going to actually gather the materials and get them to the Dressler brothers, who are going to build this great table for us. So I want to ask Joey for some help today. He's the expert on, you can see Voyageurs here with us, he's the expert on taking all of these stories and telling them through one great instrument, literally, in our case, one great table. Joey, what are some of the ideas you would have for how people can actually think about this project and put their stories together?
Well, I suppose I'd have to say don't be as open-minded as possible, because stories come from everywhere, right? Yeah. And so certainly with this project, there were some things that I went after, and amongst the associations, there will be those things that you're going to say, oh, we've got to have a piece of this, because this is sort of fundamental to the identity of who we are. And others will be less clear, and I think that's okay. Those stories emerge at their own pace and in their own way, and that's kind of nice. So, for example, it was very, very easy for me to say, well, you've got to get something from Paul Henderson's hockey stick from the 1972 Canada-Russia series, because it's so iconically Canadian, and that photograph is so well known, and it meant so much to people of a certain generation. But it's it occupies a very small place. It's just one of those four pieces there. And there's not much of a story. I mean, in fact, when I'm out and about, I tell the story of the phone call I got from Paul Henderson. But as far as its presence on the guitar, it's there, it's distinctive, it says its piece, and it's done. Whereas other stories require a little bit more coaxing. And I think that's where, I didn't know the story of John Ware, for example, the first black cowboy in Alberta, the guy credited with starting the ranching industry in Alberta. He was someone I didn't know about, and to learn about him and to find out that his cabin was preserved at the Dinosaur Provincial Park, well, then that became a goal to get that. Others, like the story of Joe LeBobe and his oyster knife that you might remember seeing around the strap post there. I mean, that's such a, that's not an earth-shattering story for most people outside of Tyne Valley, BEI. But in the valley and in that community, it's a really big thing. So it's apparently small, relatively small space on the guitar, actually occupies a huge part of the emotional part of the story and of the connection of that community to this guitar. Mm-hmm. And really, ultimately, that's what this table's going to be about, right? It's going to be about the connection that is always there, that people express in their own way through their choice of materials and stories. So there's a range of ways you can go about that. It can be a bit of, some people will do some chest thumping about this great thing happened here, or this great person walked these halls. And others could be something really special and something really quiet that almost went unnoticed, but it's fundamental to the spirit and character of what a place is.
A few people have said to me since we first call on people to think about this, that they've found the perfect item to go in the table. And my reaction has been, before you go searching for the oldest thing in your office or for that item, wouldn't it be better to actually find the story you want to tell, and then think about what the object might be that actually communicates that story? Am I right to provide that kind of advice? Is it about the story first and then the object?
Or see, that's the thing. I really think it's both. I really think you can do it both ways, because some things speak so loudly and clearly, and you don't want to dismiss things because they're obvious. You know, got to have Pierre Trudeau's canoe paddle. It's kind of obvious, but you got to have it. And that those things, you know, I remember as a kid or as a teenager, people would despise, you know, certain musicians because they were too popular. Right? Well, so, I don't know. Do I like their music or not? That's the main thing for me, and that means I also listen to a lot of musicians who aren't popular. And to me, it's, you know, I don't make that distinction based on their popularity. Likewise, some things are going to be very popular, and you're going to want them in there because they're iconic and they tell a great story in very simple and bold terms. Others are going to be more subtle, and in that way, I think you can encourage people to look at many sides of a story. What's the emotional connection between a particular story and a particular piece that you might present? What's the historical connection? What's the, you know, there's so many ways of skinning this cat, as it were, that you can really come up with a very, that's what gives the thing its depth, right?
Excellent. Well, thank you, Joey. I really appreciate your coming in and bringing Voyageur again. By the way, I'm still working on learning how to play Voyageur, but Joey and I are working on that together.
That's great.
Anyway, thanks very much, everyone. And, you know, keep in mind that we can take as much as you can think of in terms of telling your YMCA story. We have a lot of important work going on this year, a lot of important work. This is not unimportant, but it's very symbolic, and we're gonna, you know, we want to make sure this comes together at the same time as we're getting the rest of our work done. So, thanks very much.